Welcome back to another Photoshop tutorial. Today we are going to learn how to create a golden text in Photoshop, like this one. Watch the tutorial and share it with your friends. Step number 1. Let's go for the background. As the background of my project, I will use this simple black fabric texture. And now let's go for the text. Just click and enable the horizontal type tool. Click on your scene and type your text. After that, adjust it with your scene. Now the text is ready and it's time for FX options. When your text is ready, double click on your layer. Now we are going to apply 4 effects on our text: bubble and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, and color overlay. At first, in blending option, decrease the full opacity to 0%. Now enable the color overlay. Blend mode normal opacity 100%, and the color for this one has been set to 50% of brightness, which doesn't have any hue or saturation. The second effect that we are going to apply on our text is bevel and emboss. Style inner bevel, technique smooth, depth 700%, direction up, size 10 pixel and it doesn't have any pixel in soften. In shading, angle 90 degree and check the use global light, and for the altitude, press 30 degree. Glass contour is the default one, the first. Highlighted mode has been set to linear dodge, opacity 50% and the color is pure white. For the shadow mode, set the blending option to multiply and opacity 50% and the color has been set to pure black. Now, let's go for the inner shadow. Blend mode, multiply, opacity 35%, angle 90 degree, and when you check the use global light, all the angles of the effects would be the same. Distance 0 pixel, choke 0%, and size 60 pixel. And for the quality in contour, set it to the first one, the default. Now, it's time for the stroke. The stroke of our text should be set to inside, and the size for this one has been set to 10 pixel. Blend mode normal opacity 50% and in fill type set that to gradient. And I would like you to write down these details of the gradient because we are going to use it several times in this tutorial. At first, in location 0, set your color to this detail. Now, in the location of 8, set your color to this one. Now, for the third one, in location 28, set your color to this one. And in the fourth position, in the location of 42, set your color into this detail. After that, in location 46, set your color to this one. Now, in the next step, set your color in location 67 into this detail. And after that, set your color to this one. And now, for the final color, in location 77, set your color into this detail. If you are a subscriber of this channel, you know that you can have the PSD file of this tutorial. If you don't know how to get it, just read the description of this tutorial. After you have set your gradient, the style should be set to linear and check the align with the layer. After that, set your angle to 90 degree and scale 100%. Method is classic, and by pressing OK, the first set of effects on our text is completed. For the next step, Right-click on your text layer and convert it into a smart object. Now, the whole effect would be applied on our text and we can set more effect on our text. Double-click on your text layer. Now, enable the gradient overlay. The gradient is the same as I told you in the stroke of the last step. Blend mode overlay, opacity 50%, gradient I told you, style linear, angle 90 degree, and scale is 100%. And another effect that we are going to use in this step is outer glow. Blend mode screen, opacity 20%, and the fill type is color, and the color is 49 in hue, 100% of saturation, and 100% of brightness. Technique is softer, it doesn't have any percentage of spread, and the size for this one has been set to 29. In quality in the contour, set it to the first one, the default, and the range has been set to 50%. By pressing OK, the effect on our text is completed. Step number 2. It's time for the adjusting layers. The first layer of adjusting layer is a gradient. At first, select your text and come here and click on this icon to have a new layer above your text. After that, come to your foreground color and set the brightness to 20%. It doesn't have any hue or saturation. Press on OK. Now, for the background, set that to 80% of brightness. Now, by clicking on this icon, enable the gradient, and in this icon, come to the basics folder and set it to this one. So the colors would be picked from your foreground and background color. Before adjusting our gradients, we need to come in this area, hold Alt key on our keyboard, come between the layers, and by clicking on this one, the whole changes of this layer would be applied only on our text, not the whole scene. Now, set the blending mode for this layer to overlay and change the opacity to 60%. After that, click at the lowest part of your text and drag it to the top of your text. And as you can see, it's the effect of the gradient on our text. For the second layer, we are going to use the filters. At first, click on this icon and create a new layer. After that, by pressing Alt key and coming between the layers, set your layer to your text. Now, make sure that your background color has been set to pure white. When your layer is selected, press Ctrl and backspace, so you could be having something like this one, a pure white layer. Now, come to the filters. In render menu, click on clouds. As you can see, we have different texture on our text, but the whole effect on our text is not visible. So we need to decrease the opacity to something like 20%. And now, as you can see, it's the change that we've made with this layer. Now, for the next layer, we are going to need two textures. The first one is this, and the second one will be this one. I will import these two textures into my project and we will move on. Textures are here. At first, we are going to use this texture. Now, come between the layers and apply your texture only on your text. And now, as you can see, we have the texture on our text, but it's too much of the details and we need to decrease it. At first, decrease the opacity to something like 5%. And after that, by changing the blending mode into overlay, you can see the difference that we've made with this layer. Before using our second texture, we need a gradient map. At first, come and click on the adjustment icon and create a gradient map. Now, set your gradient to the golden gradient that I told you how to create it in the stroke of our text. Now, change the location of your layer between the texture, and by pressing Alt key, apply your gradient only on your text, not your scene. And now it's the time for the final layer, the second texture. Enable your second texture. After that, change your blending option to lighten. Now, apply your texture only on your text, not the whole scene. And by adjusting the opacity to something like 50%, you can see that the texture of our text has been set very nice. Well done, my friend. The tutorial is finished and now you have a golden text in your collection. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and tell me your opinion about this tutorial. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. See you in the next video.